Welcome to the Woodward Pistons Podcast. My name is Detroit KoolAid. We got Mr. Jeff Ivey from the Morning Woodward Show alum right here, and you see what he's doing right now. I know y'all are doing it too, man.
It's the pre-drum roll.
Hey, we are also joined by Detroit News, Rod Beard. Bro, how's it going?
It is going. It's different now that there's. I don't have to worry about the combine. I didn't have to go and do any of that mess. It's all good now.
Yeah. Oh man, how you doing?
I'm good.
You good?
Yeah, I'm excited. I mean, it's been a good, interesting week. Obviously, we landed the 5th overall pick. So the last week, man, I've just been deep diving, looking at really a lot of guys, because a lot of guys can be at play. It wasn't just, before it was Chet, Jabari, and Paulo.
Yep.
Now we got like 4 or 5 guys that you can really debate. So.
And you know what? You guys tried to tell me, listen, there are players in this draft. Don't get hung up on the top 3. Jabari Smith. All right, I'm going to let it go, y'all. I'm not going to get it.
Don't do that.
You got hung up on the top 1.
Well, listen, as we're forced now to shift our dreams and our focuses elsewhere, you actually start to see, man, there are some players in this draft. And when you look at what we have with Saddiq Bey, with Cade Cunningham, with Beef Stew, with Killian Hayes, no matter where these guys play, starter or bench, all of these players kind of in the top 7, top 8, top 10 will contribute something to this young core. And it's been fun to get into. Today, we're going to get into Jaden Ivey. I did want to at least just do a quick catch-up, with everybody, make sure everybody was doing good before we got into it. But, yeah, let's get into Jaden Ivey, man. Let's do it. Let's get right into Jaden Ivey. Let me see here. I wanted to start off with this thing here. People keep comparing Jaden Ivey to 2 players in the NBA. I hear his floor is Hamidou Diallo. We hear his ceiling is Ja Morant. I wanted to kind of start there as I get through some of these other topics and where we're going to go. I wanted to just get your
I'll say we'll start with Rod on that comparison.
Take it away, Rod.
Floor is Hamidou Diallo. Go ahead, Rod.
Take it away. I've seen this, man. I'm just like, what in the world?
When you see draft comps, you don't see Hami's name come up very often. That one just kind of caught me. But I mean, the athleticism is there, and the thing that I don't get is people say that he has to develop a jump shot. That wasn't the same thing with Ja Morant. It was you do what you do, or it's not with Hami. He needs to shoot better from 3, and people always try to pick on, especially with the top draft picks, what they need to work on. What was it with Cade? What was the book coming on Cade? He's not strong enough. He's not going to be able to get to the rack.
He's not fast enough.
And he's not fast enough. And we saw that he could get around those things with just being crafty. So when we start talking draft prospect and they can't do this or they need to work on that, one, consider the source, but then also look at what are their strengths. You don't look at a prospect and say they have to improve on this thing. Well, the thing that they're really good at is what put them in this position in the first place. Let's talk about how good that thing is.
Hey, and you know what? When talking about that, I know, Jeff, you had a question for Rod as well. As we get into their strengths, I just wanted to make sure you had a chance to fire that off.
Yeah, I wanted to. Well, listen, Twitter's been, at least my Twitter, Easy, everyone here. We talk about Jaden Ivey a lot, and Easy, I'm not going to talk about it too much, but he clickbaited me. All right,
shout out Woodward Heavyweights.
He put me in an edit and said Woodward Heavyweights and Jeff Ivey don't believe Cade and Jaden Ivey can work in the backcourt together, and I never said that. All I said, Rod, was he is a player that does excel with the ball in his hands, but I still said I would be okay with it because you need guys like that on this team. If you have other ball handlers, that's fine with me. How do you feel about it, Rod? When people say a player like Jaden Ivey, he needs the ball in his hands, he'd be better with his own team, he can utilize the ball most of the time. How would the fit with Cade Cunningham work in your opinion?
I mean, who the heck doesn't work? Does Saddiq work better with the ball not in his hands? Everybody works better with the ball in his hands.
Thank you.
Scorers do that.
That's an idiotic sort of take, is that he can't function if he doesn't have the ball in his hands. And the way that this team is being built, you don't want somebody who's going to have the ball in their hands to be successful anyway. I mean, the only one who really needs the ball in his hands is Cade to a degree, but maybe Killian is the only one who has to have the ball in his hands to really reach his peak and what he can really do.
Yeah.
But everybody else is a shooter. They can create, they can figure it out. So I don't buy into this. You have to be a certain type of player to fit with this roster. When you look at what the people who would fit best in that 2 spot, if Corey Joseph can fit in this, anybody. That's not a knock on Corey.
He's right.
That's not a knock on Corey, but that's saying
It's the reality check. It is.
Right. It's the reality check and saying that look at what Frank Jackson did with this.
Yeah.
He's athletic, but he's a good enough shooter. And how well do you have to shoot to be able to fit with Cade, to be able to fit with Sadiq? This isn't a guy, whoever they pick isn't a guy who's coming in is going to be the number 1 or number 2 or even the number 3 option. This is a guy who's just going to have to hit open shots and be a functional sort of 2 if you're talking about a wing player that they're going to add. He doesn't have to be a 40-45% three-point shooter. Just hit the open ones and just hit in the mid-30s. And I think they'll be good with that. And then just be able to create and give them another guy who can get to the rim. When Hamidou was most successful, was it when he was hitting threes? No, it was when he was getting to the rack and creating havoc on defense. And you know what the book is on Jaden Ivey? Gets to the rack and creates stuff in his defense. I mean, what are we talking about? I think people just try to break down a little bit too much and they overthink things. Jaden Ivey is in the top 5 prospects for a reason. Look at those things and say, can you utilize those things to make your team better? Yes, you can. Yes, let's talk about something else then.
And I want to do a follow-up real quickly because I've been watching a ton of Shaedon Sharpe, and that's a player that I'm enamored by. I love Shaedon Sharpe, but I get why GMs would be scared to take him. And I wanted to ask you, in a situation where Jaden Ivey and Shaedon Sharpe are both on the board, and you're thinking of Troy Weaver and what he would do you think it matters to a guy or any GM when you don't want to take that risk, knowing there's a possibility Shaedon could be a better player? You just have 2 years of Jaden Ivey at Purdue. Is that a realistic decision that maybe Troy Weaver's probably might make if they're both available? That he might slide Jaden Ivey.
Exactly. And here's the thing with looking at that is they will have individual workouts and reportedly they already have looked at an individual workout for Shaedon Sharpe. And so what's there, what in the interviews that you've done at the combine, what type of person he is. And remember, in all of these things, you have to consider the types of guys that Troy Weaver is going out to get. It's no wild cards. It's no guys who are going to mess up the chemistry of this team. So as you look at who these prospects are and who kind of slots in, I mean, it's kind of the good guy is the guy that profiles best and maybe the guy that they want. So that could be an Ivy. That makes you think Keegan Murray is even a bigger prospect on the Pistons board because of that profile that he fits. So, I mean, I think it's going to come down to a lot of different things. But if you tell me it's Ivy or Sharpe, just for me and what I know, there's too many. If you don't know if he can play at the college level and you've got to project that to the NBA level, look at what we're doing with all of these guys who played in college. For a guy who didn't play in college, he was the number 1 prospect in high school. Now you've got to look at film and say, does his high school film or AAU film project to be in the NBA? Right. That's a bigger leap for me to try to say that that's going to work. And so I go with what I see and what I know. And if you give me tape on everybody, I like Keegan Murray. I like Jaden Ivey. I haven't seen enough of Shaedon Sharpe to say whether that stuff is going to translate. We always talk about the 3-point line in the NBA and whether that people have difficulty with that. Sadiq Bey said he had difficulty with that. Cade said he had a little difficulty with that. So now you're talking about somebody who hasn't played at the college line and playing at the high school line. Yeah. I mean, that's a lot of steps that you've got to take and things you've got to cross off the list for me to believe that Shaedon Sharpe is that guy.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, that's a great point, especially when we're talking about this team potentially competing for a play-in spot or a playoff spot. Yeah, I think you need a guy that can play, but again, that's Troy Weaver's decision to make. As it relates to Jaden Ivey and his actual fit, next to Cade Cunningham, because I think that's what matters most. There's one nuance here that I thought about, and it's the fact that Cade Cunningham got double teamed at a crazy rate for not just a rookie, but for just an NBA player. Period. A lot of times people, when they think about a player, I think they're not thinking about the ways Cade Cunningham or these other players are being defended. And the style of Jaden Ivey's game, the more and more I looked at it, that downhill offensive pressure that he can put on a defense. Yeah. Imagine that when Cade Cunningham is double teamed, and now it's Jaden Ivey with 3 other teammates against a spaced out defense.
Yeah, they'd be better in transition. I mean, yeah.
Think about that. Think about that. Like it puts another ball handler on the floor that you know. Maybe they think, hey, we can leave Killian Hayes kind of open. He's going to short arm a floater. Jaden Ivey will dunk on your power forward, man. He will dunk on your center. He would dunk on your small forward. Yeah. That presented something a little bit different to me as it related to the fit next to Cade. That was very interesting to me because it's going to make defenders a little bit more honest. If you have a two guard with Jaden Ivey's capabilities, I don't believe they respected Jaime Diallo. Now, Frank Jackson, they tried not to respect him, and we saw Frank Jackson getting busy. Now, to your point, Rod, you put a guy like Jaden Ivey with his pedigree out there who can do a little bit more than just shoot. And we saw Frank Jackson has a little sauce too. Right. Jaden Ivey has a lot more sauce. As I start to look at these other players on the Pistons team and some of these other players we're parsing, and I look at what Jaden Ivey does well, more so than what he doesn't do well, I get excited. His drop passes to the big man as he's driving, being able to find shooters in precarious spots. What I realized is Jaden Ivey needs a coach like Coach Casey. That's what I started realizing. But his strengths, man, they play well into how defenses try to shade Cade Cunningham. Yeah. I would love to have another dynamic player on the opposite side of Cade when the defenses try to load up on him. That's my number one takeaway from Jaden Ivey and his fit with Cade. I wanted to get you guys' thoughts on that as just another dynamic playmaker, potential playmaker on the court. I know he has some things to get right. He has some times where he goes through his careless phases. Yeah. But largely he led Purdue in assists at 3.1. They were a team that assisted pretty well. What are you guys thinking?
You go first, Rod.
Well, I think, and let's go full circle here. When you talked about what Hamidou Diallo does, and certainly that athleticism, they don't have that anywhere. Yeah. I mean, to a degree, it's Frank, and Killian is not that. But we've seen their ability when they're on the floor with Cade, they can get to the rim and finish. And now you're going to amp that up a little bit more if you're talking Jaden Ivey. But just his ability to drop off into you when they have rim runners, when they got Marvin Bagley and guys who could finish at the rim a little bit differently, you saw they looked different toward the finishing stretch of the season. Now, if you add another player like that, and again, it's no slight against Corey Joseph, but this is a young guy who is finishing at the rim over your team, then it changes the calculus a little bit on what you can do on the opposite side of the floor when you've got Cade there. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to change the composition of what you're trying to do. But you're not asking Jaden Ivey to shoot 40% from three. No. Right. Come in and shoot 33, 35%, somewhere in there. And that's all we've ever asked from Killian too. Don't hit 40. Just hit 33, 35, and we're okay with that.
Yep. And honestly, with Jaden Ivey, I hear a lot of times people say he's a high flyer. He's not just a high flyer. He's a strong finisher. We've had players kind of that build who can get to the rack, and we've seen them. They're not the strongest of finishers, and it completely takes away their game, takes away their confidence, messes with their shot. When we're looking at Jaden Ivey, one of his strengths is the fact that he finishes well. He fineshes strong. What is he, about 60% at the rim? Yeah. Overall.
It's like Derrick Rose when he finishes, man. It's ridiculous.
That's a great comp as it relates to his finishes at the rim. That type of stuff intrigues me. Who's the last player that we had like that? Like, I know people say Jaime, but I believe that his floor is going to be a little bit higher than Jaime Diallo. And that's what gets me excited about a potential pick of Jaden Ivey at number 5. His athleticism, his speed, those are strengths to me that can also get him in trouble. Are we concerned at all about when he gets the ball on the other end of the court that he will be able to be the facilitator, the finisher, instead of potentially having tunnel vision? I noticed they said that there was a couple times or some games where when he would get the ball in that type of position, it was just him in the rim. And there were some bad shots.
There was. But I think and people have to understand as well, this is kind of what I was trying to tell Easy about the whole Jaden Ivey thing and having the ball in his hands. What you're asked to do at the collegiate level, especially if Jaden Ivey at Purdue, they needed the ball in his hands. They like you said, taking bad shots. That stuff, when you come to the Pistons or whatever organization he comes to, they're going to ask Jaden Ivey or tell him what they expect of him And he doesn't have to do all of that like he did at Purdue. You don't have to get the ball right off the rim and go full down court and just, you have a lot of different options. I think that's what Dwayne Casey's going to do a good job of coaching him up. So I think Jaden Ivey, you look at the skill set he has and you look at the things he can improve on, and you love the upside. Like, I absolutely love it. And to have that dynamic backcourt, you have Cade, plays a lot more slower, a lot more methodical. Then you have Jaden Ivey, you can fly out the gym, play, fast in transition. They're almost like, I don't want to say polar opposites, but it's like in a good way. You have Jaden Ivey who shows emotion. He plays with passion. He doesn't give he'll talk, what. Yeah. Then you have Cade who's a little more reserved. Like, I love the dynamic. It'd be great. And then when Cade's off the court, Jaden Ivey can handle the ball. He doesn't have to do as much. Like I said, it all goes back to what he was asked to do at Purdue. I think that's going to help him when he comes to the Pistons. Absolutely. Right. Having a guy like Cade that, I can defer to him. He doesn't have to be all Jaden Ivey.
Yeah, yep. And to what Rod spoke to earlier, I believe that what the Pistons run, their system, their setup, we've seen guys come in here like Jaime and Frank who are struggling in other places and have success. Jaden Ivey here with the coach who was putting into his development, coming into a place where he knows. Here's a question for you guys. Killian Hayes, we're talking about his fit next to Cade Cunningham and Saddiq Bey and these guys. Killian Hayes is easily going to be one of the best facilitators he's ever played with.
Oh, absolutely.
Think about that. We're talking about him in transition and in fast breaks and all different places that they can better utilize a Jaden Ivey. I keep thinking about when, the big or Killian Hayes who loves to go and snatch the defensive rebound, man, his outlets. Jaden Ivey, just go.
Yeah.
Just go.
I'll get you.
Yeah, it's different. You're right. The roles, the positions, the things that they had to do. What was it, a post-dominant offense that then got in trouble towards the end of games and put a lot of pressure on Jaden Ivey to have to be the man.
Yeah.
That's what I started seeing when I looked at some of these games. Especially people talked about his three-point shooting struggle down the stretch. So people talk about 35, 36% on the year. He had that 10% jump. Mm-hmm. But down the last 10 or 11 games, it was more like 25%. But if you look at those games, he was having to be Superman.
Yeah. That
was what was happening. He was out there really, really pushing, really, really gunning. And I believe that it negatively affected that shooting. I believe it is something to look at. But like you guys said, that's not what we're looking at Jaden Ivey for. That's not what got him to this point. But it is definitely something to look at.
Yeah.
To your point, when was the last time you saw a weak side guard run the baseline and catch an oop and finish? It's been forever.
Yeah.
Forever. I mean, maybe Dennis Smith got one somewhere in there, but I mean, that's a dynamic, an athletic dynamic that I think they would just cling to and just feel really good about. That Cade, when he got to throw lobs to Bagley, then when he got to start throwing lobs to other people, then it's like, that's just something that an element that I think that could be really, really something different for them to feel good about and to a different element to their game. We're talking about what Killian can do. But yeah, you give him another guy to pass to that's playing above the rim. Come on, man.
Yep. I love it. I love it because we're not really looking at this from a standpoint of is he the right pick, but from a standpoint of who is he if he is the pick. So and that's why I appreciated how you started, Rob, by saying we're not looking at what these guys can't do. If we're trusting Troy Weaver, if we're trusting Casey, if we're even trusting the G League team and what they're doing, we're trusting the players that we have here. If we believe in Cade the way that we say we do, then if Jaden Ivey is that pick, we look at everything that he can do well and we say, hey, listen, the first thing we're going to do is put you in your best possible position to succeed.
Yeah.
2, we have a clear-cut system, hierarchy. There's a leader here. And these guys – it's different, man. Cade Cunningham, he just gets a certain respect from not only his own team, but other stars in the league. That's a guy who I look at. I don't even think second-year player. Yeah. I just don't. So I believe that the structure is set up very well for Jaden Ivey to come in, play to his strengths, be put in his best possible position, unlike some of our previous draft picks.
Right.
Stanley Johnson was not put in his best possible position to me. Andre Drummond, he was not put in his best possible position when he came into the league. Jaden Ivey in Cade Cunningham, and Killian Hayes, Saddiq Bey, Isaiah Stewart, these guys would be coming into and have come into much better, stable situations with front offices that believe in them. Rod, you remember, I don't even know if the coaching staff necessarily believed in Andre Drummond, though the front office did when they drafted him. I remember that there was some type of difference of opinions with Lawrence Frank, and Andre Drummond started the year off on the bench. we're not dealing with that type of stuff anymore at all. So if Jaden Ivey is the pick,
No, and with Andre, it was different because the real change there was they had to decide whether they wanted Drummond or Greg Monroe, and they made the right decision there. You have to go with the younger guy, given those two choices. But circumstances dictated, well, now you got to give him a max, and you don't have a choice. If you're going to pick him over Monroe, you have to give him a max when the time comes. Is he a max player? No, but that's circumstances just dictated that. So people want to say, well, Andre was moody. He was up and down. He was what he was, and he didn't say, "Give me max money." The situation said, "Give him max money," and they didn't have a choice there because they weren't going to let him walk and Monroe walk in consecutive years for nothing. So. Andre sometimes gets a bad rap in that it made it seem like he walked in the room and kicked down the door and said, "Hey, give me a max contract." It was more like we have to because that's the situation that we're in. Yeah. And having picked him over Greg Monroe, that's just what it is. That's just what it was. Again, this is when you're looking at these guys now, there's nobody in here that has to take a back seat if you get Jaden Ivey. He gets to come in and be himself. And and grow into that position. There's nobody that's holding down that position. And if you want to say Hamidou Diallo can be that guy, sure. But we've kind of profiled him as a reserve player and a sixth man is maybe his ceiling. He's probably not going to come in and be a starter for a team. When this team gets to be a playoff contender, Hami's probably not a starter. So you can. There's nobody that's holding Jaden Ivey back from being whatever he can be, and he's not going to sit in a corner and. All the stuff that people have said about Stanley Johnson and Killian to a degree, they're not going to have him sit in a corner. He's going to be able to play to his strengths. And I think that's the upside to all of this is he would be in a position where he could certainly succeed and they wouldn't have any reins on him.
Yeah. And that was the point that I was trying to make. That's why I love Rod, man. He succinctly just pulls that thing together is that this situation is just so much more beautiful for any of the draft picks that are coming in. Yeah. And that's what makes us way more comfortable and way easier to talk about. We have Arcade. We can just talk about, hey, what cherry do we want on top now? That's just it.
Yeah, that's it.
I want to talk about just quickly his defense. I know we talked a lot about his offense. With his defense, I love his potential. I love his potential to defend and recover as well as play the passing lanes. I love the fact that he plays aggressively, and I told you this before show. He didn't foul as much. As aggressive as he played, he didn't have the fouls that I would think would match. But there are still some questions about his defense. I see a potential, especially when we have lineups with him and Killian playing together, where those guys can just absolutely be pit bulls and harass an opposing backcourt.
Right.
What do you all feel about Jaden Ivey's defense?
Part of me, again, it goes back to what you were asked to do at the collegiate level. Like, I feel like he had such so much on his shoulders offensively that I'm not going to give a guy flack for not committing as much defensively. So if he's coming into the Pistons, you're going to be asked to defend. That's the bottom line. So, but Jaden Ivey will have to defend, regardless of what we think about him. So, like you said, the key is potential, athleticism, size, strength, instinct. He checks all those boxes. So I'm not worried about it. Listen, I imagine whoever the selection is, they're going to be able to guard the best player on the other team. And I think Jaden Ivey can get to that point. I don't know. I feel like there's other guys who look at the raw ability. Like that's why I love Shaedon Sharpe because he's 6'6" with a 7-foot wingspan. Like that, and I get it. You have questionables, but Jaden Ivey checks all the boxes. So I think he has the potential. And I think coming to Detroit, it all matters where you go because people have questions about Paolo Banchero. But if Paolo Banchero goes to the right situation, I think he'll be a good defender. But if he goes to a situation where they're not going to ask that of him, he may never be a good defender. So I think Jaden Ivey has that in Detroit. I think he's going to be asked to do it, and I think he can do it. Certainly.
Good points.
No, and coming to this team, you're talking about what he's being asked to do. You're coming next to Cade or next to Killian in some lineups. You don't have to guard the best player. You can guard the other guy. You can guard a point guard if there's a quicker point guard. Yeah. So you have a bigger 6'6", kind of bulkier Killian that can guard some of those bigger guys, like a Jalen Brunson. Would you want Jaden Ivey guarding Jalen Brunson, or would you want Killian? I'd want Killian, certainly.
True. Yep.
So you have that flexibility where the smaller, quicker guys, if it is a Ja Morant, maybe you don't want Cade on him. Maybe that's a better fit for Jade. I think the fits there and the options that you get with a smaller, quicker guard and what he's asked to do on defense here would be completely different. And again, Ivy fits into all of those things.
Yep, and his ability to play weak side defense, as you guys are talking about this, and his ability to, hey, though he can have the potential to strap up and really guard the number one guy, man, when you bring in a Killian and you say Jaden Ivey go play help side, we saw the blocks.
Yeah.
We saw the blocks he was getting. Like that,
he can get up.
That makes me a little bit excited now. You know, you get your big man that's down there. You have, wait, if I actually get by Killian, who's trying to pack me in his luggage and take me to France for this game against the Bulls, I got Jaden Ivey sitting there. Like, seriously. Yeah, we saw him. He was volleyball spiking stuff. There were times when I was like, oh, man, you got beat off the dribble. And it was like, no, I didn't, bro. No, I did not. And it was like, this is a setup. He has a pretty decent wingspan as well. I'm getting excited, man. Y'all got me forgetting about Jabari Smith?
All you got to do is talk it out. That's it. Just talk it out.
Are we getting to that point, Rod, at this point where I think guards are the most being discussed, Jaden Ivey and Sharpe, or even I heard other people get into the Ben Mathurin as well. Do you feel like that's the direction they're going to head into, or if they do take Keegan Murray, do you think Jalen Brunson's still on the table? Like, there's so many options what happens in free agency. Do you think a guard is the most likely?
No, it's the feelers that they've got out there. And I think they have an inkling of whether they can get Ayton or they can get Brunson. And that'll dictate what they do in the draft, I think. And they have a feeling of what they want to do with Jerami Grant already. That's the part we don't know. And that's going to go into that equation that the draft is going to depend on what you want to do with Jerami, what you can do in free agency, who you can bring in. Those are the three big prongs that are going to dictate all of this stuff. I think the draft-wise, they're going to go with the best guy there, and then they can figure out, well, hey, if they can trade Jerami during the draft, and Portland's going to give them that 7 and some extra stuff, well, maybe you end up with Ivy and Mathurin. Then, I mean, now we're talking about something completely different. Or if you're trading Jerami, then you can go at 5 and you can go Murray, and maybe you can get Mathurin or whoever slips down to you at 7 as a guard. So you can you can get 2 birds with this. And if you've already decided, well, now you've got a ton of cap space with Blake Griffin's money, and you've got Jeremy's money that you can play around with. Now you can go and get Brunson in addition to that, or you can try to go and get Ayton, and you can throw a full max at him.
Man,
that's a ton of talent on rookie contracts, man.
That's what I was just sitting here thinking, like,
this
is a lot of talent.
Deals. That's
last
crazy.
year we were crying about all the dead money on the books. Why is he stretching and waving, guys? No, we wanted Jalen Hands. Dude,
it's always a bigger plan in this. And with Troy, he is not going to show his hand on anything. You just got to wait and let the dust settle. So even when the Pistons take somebody with the 5th pick, you can't say, oh, okay, that's it. Let me start writing my previews of the season. You got to see what happens with that 7th pick. I mean, if that 7th pick is Mathurin and Portland doesn't need Mathurin, you got to start raising your antennas and thinking is something else in the works at some point.
Right.
Chauncey, listen to me, bro.
Chauncey.
I heard your interview on Bally Sports Detroit when Portland played here in Detroit, and you said, I like my young guys, but it's hard coaching a young team. I want some vets. That was also the same night that we saw those pictures with the Blazers players and Jerami Grant. Chauncey, help us, bro.
Is this the one where they were doing this?
Yeah, the
talking like about the shirt.
Chauncey.
It's all right there set up for you. All right, I got to run.
Thank you, Rod.
No. Hey. All right, cool. I thought he did. Nope. You got Hey.
Our guy.
Thank you, sir.
Showing love.
Have a blessed day,
all right,
man.
Appreciate it, guys.
Yep.
All
Yes,
right,
sir.
you too. Thanks.
So, man, I love the fact that he gives us this time.
He gets
man.
us excited before he leaves. He brings up the whole swap for 5
does.
and 7, and then he says, "All right, I'm out."
He knows what he's
Gets
doing.
his hype,
dog.
man.
He
He gets his hype.
He knows what he's doing.
I was actually going to ask him, and I'll ask you this.
Yes, sir.
I know there's 2 scenarios on the table. We had a stream yesterday. We talked to Sacramento Kings writer. I forgot what he writes for the company, but great guy named Leo. We asked him about the potential of the Pistons trading up to 4, and including Jerami Grant, and getting back a player. He mentioned Rashawn Holmes would be like the return to match the salary. It's not the most enticing trade, but how do you feel about that? If Troy, let's say Apollo Banchero or somebody's there that you can trade up and get, would you be okay with giving up Jerami Grant to move up one spot?
Somebody like who?
Jabari
Say his name.
Smith. If he's there, baby, you give up. You go get him.
What?
But
if he's there. Hey, bro. No, everybody is touchable except for K, bro. Everybody can be traded. Sadiq Bey, he can stay. But no.
I like the
Real
Portland
talk.
though better. That trade, obviously.
Yeah, I love the Portland one better. I believe it fits better for both teams.
Right.
Sacramento, I feel like there's a way to swindle them without giving them Jerami Grant. I feel like they're gonna just swindle themselves. they're gonna do that. We don't even have to worry about them trading with them. To me, unless they're gonna threaten to take a player that you want, that's the only way that I see us doing a trade like that. And I believe that Troy, he's just too savvy for that, man.
Yeah.
There's
one
not
pick is a little tough for me.
Yeah.
I mean, would you trade Jerami Grant away for one?
Yeah, if it's one of those top three, if one of those top three squeak through, then yeah, because that's the position that Jerami Grant would be playing.
Right.
You say, you know what? If you want you want to be able to get that rookie contract, get Jerami Grant into a situation. I don't know if Sacramento is even a good situation for him.
It ain't.
And that's something to consider. Troy Weaver wants to make sure he's taking care of Jerami Grant wherever he goes. I don't know how well Sacramento fits. It's Portland.
It sounds
to me,
like Portland.
It's Portland. Is Paolo the player that you say, you know what, to hell with Jerami Grant and just trade him to Sacramento?
It's tough for me to trade up just one spot. I mean, it's hard.
Tell us in the comments too,
because I could technically you could keep Jerami and take whoever, Jaden Ivey, Shaedon Sharpe, whoever it is. I like that better.
I like that better.
I do, and if you do trade for that 7th pick, now you're walking away with one of the best guards in the class, and you can go get whoever else is there.
And this is the thing to consider
Keegan
too.
Murray.
This is the thing to consider. We have to take back salary if we trade with Sacramento, whereas Portland has a trade exception from the Pelicans.
Yep.
So
good point.
We can just here you go, and we can just take your pick. That's a huge thing, and we can send them if they need anything else. If they're like, hey, throw us a filler, or we'll throw you some filler. I think both organizations are kind of already been patting each other on the back.
Right.
It's not going to be a hard deal to get going. That's the best possible situation as it relates to trading, unless you get a Chet or a Jabari. Paolo, I don't know. If he falls there, he's one of those top 3 guys. I haven't been as sold on him as other people, but
if Troy's like, hey,
this
guy gonna be a superstar, then I see it.
You have to, because I'm looking at a bunch of different guys here, man. With Jaden Ivey, I see a guy who reminds me more of what we missed out on in Donovan Mitchell. Some of the same questions as it related to playmaking and three-point shooting, those things were being applied to Donovan Mitchell when he came in, and then he didn't miss no shots in this trial with the Pistons.
Oh no!
Now we got Jaden Ivey sitting right here.
Yeah.
We got a guy like Paolo who some people, he's not Carmelo Anthony, but some people say, his game kind of is reminiscent.
Right.
If one of these guys fall, man, it's like, hey, listen, don't make these same mistakes again. But I'm glad that we don't have to sit here and look at it from that standpoint. Right. Troy Weaver is a well-studied individual who's been in these streets with these players, man. Like, you look at his old pictures, he's at the AAU games of Isaiah Stewart.
Yeah.
Sadiq Bey.
Yeah.
He's ushering Jerami Grant into Syracuse out of DMV. This is who our GM is now. It's not a guy who's sitting back getting intel just handed to him. It's a guy who's out there saying, I know the character, I know the person, I know how they work, I know how they tick, I know the fact that when someone beats them, they want to come back better next time.
That's big, man. I think his attention to detail in terms of looking at these guys' characters, I think that's the biggest thing, because everyone talks about building a culture, and that starts by winning, but it also starts by getting guys collecting all these guys that have the same mindset. And Troy Weaver's done a good job of that, and that's what I said yesterday. I think the next month is going to dwindle these guys down. It's gonna you have the Jaden Iveys, the Shaedon Sharpes, but in the next closer to the draft, you might only have Jaden Ivey, Keegan Murray. Because maybe Shaedon Sharpe gets moved out because he doesn't line up with what they want in a player and how he approaches the game and all of that stuff. So we could talk about who we like, but interview process is going to be big. Big time. I think Jaden Ivey's going to pass that. Part of me just says he's going to walk out of that room with Troy Weaver. Him and Keegan Murray are the 2 guys I'm sure they're going to pass. Shaedon, I don't know enough about. I hope he does, but something tells me Troy's going to love the dog in him. He's going to love the dog in Jaden Ivey, man, when he talks to him.
Shaedon Sharpe, he's obviously going to be the most intriguing player in this draft. I think, honestly, he should be maybe either him or Chet.
Yeah,
I think those are the top 2 most intriguing players that you just don't know exactly what they're going to be at the next level. You can see a lot of the other people's intangibles can transfer and how they can fit, but we don't even know what type of player Chet's going to be. We don't know who Shaedon Sharpe is. But when you look at the measurables, when you look at who these guys were, when you look at the fact that Chet, I don't want to disrespect him, he faced some of these other guys that we say have dog in them, and he held his own against some of these guys, man.
He's got a dog too.
You know, with Shaedon Sharpe, 7-foot wingspan, 6'6". If Troy is looking at this guy and he likes the measurables, and he likes what he's seeing in these practices, I know they're going to have run. Hopefully these guys get in there and they have some run together. I assume Shaedon Sharpe is going to probably refrain from that type of stuff, playing with other prospects to keep his draft stock high.
Yeah, keep it a question. It'll only raise your draft stock.
Yep. But I wanted to ask you this question, bro. Who do you think this year's Scotty Barnes is in the draft? You know, that player who he's not necessarily among the consensus top 3, but may wind up winning Rookie of the Year. And the Pistons, they're a much better situation
than
they came into.
I think, and you're talking about the guy that everyone, I think it could be a Keegan Murray. And I'll tell you why. Because people look at Keegan Murray and they look at him and say, he's safe. He's a safe pick. But people don't understand when you come in as a rookie,
Scotty Barnes,
it'll translate. And if everybody, and I'm not saying he's gonna be the best player, I'm not saying that, but you're asking me who's gonna surprise people. I think year one, I think it could be Keegan. I think he's the most pro ready, depending on the situation. That's big. Which one he goes to, what team? I think he's gonna be ready to play right away. He fits the mold. Obviously, he's got a 3-point shot, got the athleticism. He plays both sides of the ball like Scotty Barnes did. So I think that's the guy I'm gonna watch. I think the second would be probably Jaden Ivey. Because I think he can make a case for Rookie of the Year just because of how electric he is. He's gonna have highlights this year, no doubt about it, for whatever team he plays on. So those would probably be my 2. I would just lean Keegan because I just feel like he's the most pro ready, 6'8".
Right.
I mean, he checks all the boxes. So I think that's gonna be the sleeper. He might go with 4, 5, 6, but may still win Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, I think we're gonna cover Keegan Murray next. I want to push Ben Mathurin and Shaedon Sharpe off to the last 2. I think Keegan Murray, we're going to do him next. When I looked at some of the measurables, I looked at some of the stats, he's more than somebody that's just NBA ready. Or
role player, they say.
Role player ready is what I mean. He's more than somebody that's just role player ready. This guy's, man, his points per possessions in a lot of different scenarios are higher than people like Jabari Smith and Jaden Ivey and others. We're going to get into it. We're definitely going to get into it, man. Man, oh, man, oh, man.
But that would be my sleeper, I think.
Yeah. That was me too, and I continued to look at it and look at it and look at it. I was like, it's got to be one of these 2 guys because you don't expect the top 3 to slip through. You know, you expect Chet, you expect Paolo, you expect Jabari to go 1, 2, 3.
Yep.
Keegan Murray, I believe that's the guy. And which one do you believe, if the Pistons drafted one, which one has the higher potential to win that Rookie of the Year? If it was Keegan or if it was Jaden Ivey?
That's tough. I would say Keegan Murray just because I think he would work. We talk about sitting in the corner and being able to shoot and do other things, playing off ball. I think Jaden Ivey can do those things, but I think in transition, what Keegan Murray is able to do, especially, I know Jaden Ivey's really good at it too, but Keegan Murray he's just like his points in transition, like you were talking about points in different areas. He can just score.
Right.
So that with Cade, I think would benefit. You can kind of, especially if you trade Jerami Grant, he gets to fill that role immediately. So I would probably say Keegan can make a case, but Jaden Ivey, man, he's gonna be a highlight reel. And a part of me says he's just gonna be able to make plays that just others can't. And maybe I'll lean Jaden Ivey. I'm gonna be honest with you. Maybe Keegan Murray, it's close, but if I'm talking about substance, style, all that stuff, maybe Jaden Ivey brings a case for him. You never know.
I don't know. Yeah, I believe that his style of play with the Pistons, Jaden Ivey would be the one that I would lean towards could win Rookie of the Year. I believe Keegan Murray's style on a particular team, yeah. And the reason why I asked that question is because which one of these teams in the top look like they're going to be ready to win next year or show some measurable improvement next year? We saw the Pistons have what we consider to be the best player, but of among the rookies, but he didn't win Rookie of the Year. I believe that whatever rookie we are drafting is coming into one of the better situations in the top 5, top 6, top 7 of that draft.
Right.
Is Orlando a better situation?
I don't know.
Is Sacramento a better situation? Is OKC a better situation? That's what I'm saying. When we
all in rebuilds.
Yeah, whoever we draft is coming into a situation that we're hoping within 1 or 2 years is competing for playoff spots, let alone next year for a play-in. Cade Cunningham has said, I want to win. You see what Ashton is saying. We know Ashton also is connected to Cade, his cousin, his trainer. He's not saying things that Cade isn't feeling.
Right.
They want to win. They want to be in the play-in. They want to do this by next year. That's the only reason why sometimes I do lean towards more Jaden Ivey or Keegan Murray over Shaedon Sharpe. If they're really trying to win next year, do you go with the proven or do you go with somebody that may be a project?
And this is my thought process. I kind of talked about it a little bit because I'm pretty high on Shaedon Sharpe. Not that I see him as – I get it completely. I think I'm more intrigued by it in a way. Yeah. I don't think I'm over here banging the table like Shaedon's going to be the best rookie out of all these guys. But I think he has the highest upside out of all, especially the guards. I think he has a higher upside, in my opinion, than Jaden Ivey just because of a couple things. And I talked about it yesterday.
Break it down.
With Shaedon Sharpe, what I'm getting, and I always say this, who are you when your shot's not falling? And I told you the measurables. We already went through it. 6'6", 7-foot wingspan, 49-inch, unofficial vertical, can jump out the gym. And not just that. I get it's high school film, and he did practice at Kentucky, by the way. But if the only thing you have against Shaedon Sharpe is he didn't play his freshman year, I just can't get with that. Because if he plays his freshman year, he's a top 5 pick. Everybody knows that. Yep. Everybody knows that. I mean, he would have been the best player in Kentucky, in my opinion. So that's big. But you're getting a guy that has the potential to be an elite shot maker. Like give me the ball, get out of the way type of player. And that's what I look for in my 2 guard, especially next to Cade. You can keep the ball in Cade and in Killian's hands. Then you have a guy who, when you need him, can go get a bucket and can play defense, can do all these things athletically. So that's what I love about Shaedon Sharpe. I think he can still develop a lot more in his game, but his shooting form looks pure. People talk about his shooting. He shot like 37% in the Nike event he played in before he went to college. It was a big-time event.
Yep.
So he shot nearly 40%. I get it. He didn't shoot at a collegiate level, but again, he's got the jump shot. You just got to tool it. You just got to work on it. I'm sure he can do it. He was shooting 3 feet, 4 feet behind the three-point line in high school. So he can do it. That's what I'm so intrigued by, just the potential. And I'm an upside guy. I mean, listen, as a Pistons fan, we've sucked the last 3 years. All right? We got Cade Cunningham. I don't think we're going to be good next year. I can wait 2 years for Shaedon Sharpe. That's just how I'm thinking. Because I get it. You want to go with the safe pick because you want to get, you want to be in contention quicker. But in the long run, if it pays off, I'm cool with it. I mean, I think Shaedon has the potential to be a Jalen Green. I really do. Because Jalen Green is similar in a way, crazy athletic, can go get a bucket, isn't going to, put up, 28 and 8. He's not going to, 8 rebounds, 8 assists. He's just like, listen, I'm going to score. He'll maybe, what do you average? 3 assists, 3 rebounds this year. That's kind of where I see Shaedon Sharpe. And then you have Cade who can just control everything. Control everything.
Control the pace, control the game.
Exactly. So that's kind of why I'm leading Shaedon Sharpe. I get, and Jaden Ivey's my second guy that I want the Pistons to draft.
And there's one.
It's close.
Yeah, and there's probably one key reason why you're leaning towards that, and it's not just the potential. If we didn't have Cade Cunningham, it makes it a little bit harder to say, let me look at Shaedon Sharpe.
Right, I would probably go Jaden
Ivey. It really does.
Yeah.
With Cade Cunningham, it gives us this ability to say, you know what, whether they're playing for the playing game this year or not, we can afford to take a year with a prospect that we believe can present this type of a high upside.
And we don't know what they're going to do in free agency, too. Like, people expect, and I would love DeAndre Ayton, but let's say they don't do anything. I mean, they sign like a couple guys. You think that's a playoff team? Might be play-in, but even then, like, that's the point. If they sign DeAndre Ayton, they keep Jerami Grant, and they draft Jaden Ivey, okay, now we're talking. I mean, that's a way better team than last year. Yep. But you don't know what's going to happen in free agency, so that's why I'm just looking at the draft as it is. Give me the player with the highest upside.
And I get that. If you believe in Shaedon Sharpe's ability to be something more than just a rotational or role player or a good fit, then with Cade, with Sadiq, with Beef Stew, with what you believe some of these other players are going to be, with free agency, with cap space, I can see taking a flyer on Shaedon Sharpe. We're going to get there. We definitely
can't wait till we break him down. It's going to be fun.
But, hey, look, man, I don't mind bringing this one to a close. I think with Jaden Ivey, we hit all of the points, and we're going to be doing over the next 3 or 4 weeks, as we approach the draft, is we're going to be profiling different players. The first 2 or 3 weeks, this one was Jaden Ivey. Next is Keegan Murray. After that, who do you want to do, man? Is it Sharpe or Mathurin?
Got to be Sharpe.
Sharpe?
Matherin's there's the 4 right there that I'm cool with, so we'll call for them all. I know Bryce Simons, he's big on Ben Mathurin.
Yeah.
Big, and I respect him a lot.
During that time.
Yeah,
I think we're going to get him on Bryce Simons, Motor City Hoops, Pistons Post Podcast. He does a lot of different things. A shout out to Omar Sankoff, who's also co-host.
Yep. 2 great guys, by the way.
2 great guys, man. I love our beat writers. I love our content creators. I love our basketball minds within not just Pistons Twitter, but, people covering this thing all over Detroit.
And shout out to Omari. He had Shaedon Sharpe going number 5 in his mock draft. Hey, shout out to Amari.
Hey.
It's the little things, you know what I mean? Like,
Oh man, why can't you have Jabari Smith? Hey, whatever. But you know what? There's one more thing we got to cover with Jaden Ivey.
All right.
I heard someone say the most ignorant thing.
What?
The most ignorant. Hold on.
Ignorant.
The most ignorant thing, bro.
What did he say?
And they will remain nameless.
Okay.
They said that why sign Russell Westbrook when you can just draft Jaden Ivey, a guard who's just going to chuck him.
You know what? This goes back to, and I want to start this because I'm hot right now, and I want to start this by saying this, and it goes back to my point when I made with Rod was here. What players are asked to do at the collegiate level. Russell Westbrook was asked to be, Russell Westbrook for how many years in Oklahoma City? It was drilled in that man's head.
And he did it, though.
And he did it at a high level. But again, it's hard when you've been doing something for so long. And then he goes to the Lakers or he goes to Houston. How will you expect him to just not play the way he's been playing the last 10 years? Right. Jaden Ivey is going to be a goddamn rookie. Excuse me. Sorry, Lord. How do you expect that man to walk in and immediately be like, get out the way, and be reckless? There comes a learning point, especially as a rookie. This is where you kind of learn.
Russ got an MVP.
And he got an MVP. So if we're going to talk about Russ comparisons, I'm good with that. But just to address the recklessness of Russ, that's been something that's been groomed for 10 years. Jaden Ivey can develop it.
Developing.
Players in their rookie year, they have to figure out what their game is. How am I going to succeed in the league? That was Russell Westbrook's. And he did it for a long time. I don't think that's going to be Jaden Ivey's. Cade Cunningham's here. How are you going to take the ball out of Cade's hands and say, get out the way?
Yeah, I'm glad you attacked it the way you did because I was even thinking about it from a different standpoint, but from a standpoint of just he's a rookie coming in. He wants to be molded. He wants to be the best. He wants to be. Look, bro, you played hoops.
Yeah.
I played hoops. You play organized hoops,
yeah.
Right? I play organized hoops. It's a difference when you're playing out on the playground and you're just hooping the hoop. It's different when you're in your driveway and you're like, yeah, I got to be the best player. It's different when you're playing 21. But as soon as you put on that jersey, bro, it's about you and your team.
You want to win.
You just want to win. You just want to hoop. You just want to play hard. And you know the new team. When you're coming into those new teams, you just want to fit in. Sometimes that can kill the player's confidence. Sometimes that can kill their drive and take away that killer mentality. But with a guy like Jaden Ivey who can rely so heavily on his God-given natural ability, his athleticism, his speed, his change of pace, I see him, especially with his intellect. You hear him talk.
Yeah.
You see that this is a guy who we see his all-world, top 5 draft pick talent. He was a team player at Purdue.
And he comes from a basketball family. Like his mom played for the Detroit Shock. His mom also makes him watch Ja Morant a lot.
Yep.
Because she coached Ja Morant. So
shout out to the Detroit Shock, man.
Yes. So he like you said, basketball family, the game is drilled in his head, how to play the right way. It's not
how to
like
respect the game.
Respect the game. That's big time, man.
Yep.
I think it'd get to the point, and I don't know his mom personally or anything like that. I mean, but I feel like she'd be the type to, if he's having bad games, she'll be in his ear. Like, this is what you need to be doing to succeed.
I think he had another family member, too, that played for the Lions.
He's his grandfather, I believe. Or, I think it was his grandfather. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments.
Yeah, definitely. But, somebody look that up, man. Check out all of the different connections between Jaden Ivey and Detroit if you can find them. Put them down in the comments, definitely. Put in the comments as well. What do you believe Jaden Ivey will be here in Detroit? What do you think he'll be here next to Cade Cunningham? We covered a lot of different things. I'm excited to get into this heavy basketball talk. We're going to be back to our silliness. We had a little bit of technical delays this morning, but I hope everybody stays hydrated. You see, I got the KoolAid exclusive. I got the water out. We got a heat wave coming. We do. Yeah. I was out shopping for some gas grills. We're gonna have it up soon. I got the pool.
Okay, you got one.
I got the pool. We got the pool.
You're piecing it all together.
Yeah, we're gonna piece it all together, man. What do you got planned for this heat wave coming up?
Tough. It's tough. This is the thing I love, and it's funny you talk about Michigan. The weather changes so much. I want it to be hot, but when it's hot like that, like I was talking to the writer Leo writes for the Sacramento Kings. It was 100 degrees in Sacramento yesterday. 100. It was 70 in here. So I'm like, man, it makes me thankful that you can actually go outside and not get burnt immediately. Yeah. He couldn't even bring his dogs outside. So the heat wave, I'll be I want to get out, but is it healthy?
I don't even know, man. I know I'm not.
Is it
hooping.
like stay inside type of heat wave, or
I'm not hooping outside. I may like shoot around a little bit. I know that much.
yeah, you'll be out there.
Definitely
You're
not.
gonna need a couple gallons of them with that water, man. You'll be outside hooping.
Yeah, no. I definitely get in that pool. Like,
Oh,
I think you
yeah.
got it
Pool's
at the
the
right
move.
time. We
Pool's the
definitely
move.
getting in there, man. Sheesh. I don't know, man. Definitely, we got Memorial Day right around the corner.
Yeah, I'll be out this Sunday. I'm gonna go on the boat with my woman.
Ooh.
But Monday
Like
we have the
that.
day off, so hey, that'll be cool. But
Yeah. Hey,
gonna be a good weekend.
what's the move for Monday? If I get that gas grill, what am I putting on there, y'all? Y'all gotta let me know, man. Help me out here. It's a new experience. I don't know what cuts the best on the gas grill. I'm definitely gonna be texting you and calling you as well.
oh, I got you.
But I did want to, before I let you go, man, before we get out of here. You said you play organized sports, right?
Yeah.
Hey, you gotta tell the people who you are, what you did, high school, what levels, all of that.
So played in high school. Obviously, I got good memories from high school. Obviously, I played for a small school. Wasn't a very good basketball team. So what I did was we have a rec center right by our house. And all the guys from all over, I'm talking, we had schools that were like Lance Cruz North, Elginak, and I went to Anchor Bay High School. They'd all come to this rec center and sign up for summer leagues. And I'd be playing every summer as well. Playing in the summer, we didn't have a lot of good teams because it was mostly me and my friends, and we were out there having fun partially, but also playing hard.
Just
But
for the love of the game.
those are the memories, man. Being young, just wanting to win at everything you did. I had some of my best memories playing ball. I remember one time we were playing a team, and it had the owner's son on it. And I'll never forget this. It's funny. I had my buddy visiting from Connecticut. Quick story before we end this. And he was in the crowd, and we were down, I think, like 3. Or it was tied or we were down 3, late game situation. I get the ball, fast break situation. I'm in the corner, slide the ball to me. I'm posted up. His mom behind me is like, miss it. Or she's talking. You know how the moms are, miss it. He can't shoot. He can't shoot. I'm
Boy.
telling you, money. And as I did like the look at her and just, as I'm walking back, hit her with a shush. Those moments you live for, because in high school you feel like the baddest mother in the world after you do that. I'm shushing his mom. I'm pointing at him.
Yeah.
I think we ended up losing that game, but anyway, it was
It
fun.
don't
It was
matter,
a lot
bro,
of fun.
because moms talk. They got the
They
best
do.
trash talk, bro.
They do.
They got the best trash talk, man. I've heard some things. Sheesh.
He says, I've heard some things.
We'll get into it, man. I'm for real. I remember we played, what was it? DSIA, Detroit Science Institute of Art.
Yeah.
We played them in downtown Detroit, man, or in Detroit at like the YMCA. Yeah. We'll get into that on the next show.
Yeah, we got
I'll
it.
tell you
We'll
some
get into stories, man.
Well,
That'll be
I'll
fun.
tell you, because I did too, man. I played at a small school. We weren't that good when I first got there. When a lot of us, it was like 5 or 6 of us that kind of went there, like in the same year, and we all went
Right.
to the team. The guys that were there were decent, but we had fun, man. We came together as a team. We started winning some games towards the end of that season. I went there my junior year, and in my senior year was when like all the lights, camera, actions turned on, man. Everything, I didn't even know people were like scouting us because we played summer league and stuff like that. And they're like, you know what? This team right here, they could be something next year. And it was fun. And it was cool to do it as a team. Every accolade, I always give that back to my team, man. I do, man. They
Big time,
helped
man.
a lot. Deuce was at that school, downtown Deuce. Shout
Oh,
out to him.
Deuce.
And then I had the privilege of, I got All-State, honorable mention, in the Student Athlete of the Year for the state of Michigan the year that I came out. Led it downriver in scoring.
Oh!
No, listen. You got to understand, I'm saying this up for a reason, man, because I'm a hoop.
Yeah.
No. You got to listen. The culture of basketball is awesome, and I love basketball. We love basketball.
Yeah.
Man, but when I got to college, oh, my gosh, bro. I went to D2. Dude, I'm not pulling up none of those box scores, man. I'm not pulling up none of them. It was a different game.
And I never played college ball. As soon as I was done with high school, I was like, listen, I want to be a coach. That was my first thing.
I was out there with Bryce, man. He was at American University. I went to Columbia Union
Bryce?
College. Yeah.
You played against Bryce?
I didn't play against
Well,
him. We
okay.
know that we were at the same. He's been to my gym. I played at a little school called Columbia Union. Funny story, crazy story actually. Steve Francis grew up behind that school.
Oh, okay.
So that was a gym he grew up playing in. He would give us all of our gear, man. He would like donate to make sure we get shoes and all that.
Oh, that's real.
Yeah, we got to play big teams like North Carolina A&M. We played, some really big teams, man.
Yeah.
Along my years there, we were D2 for that 1 year I was there, or for my freshman year, and then we went down to NAIA after that. But it was a cool experience, man. Steve Francis had us like lit. It was awesome. We did a lot of pro-ams and such. So it was a really cool experience to play, but it was just a different, man, the athleticism.
Oh, yeah.
The speed. There are effectively just a bunch of D1 hoopers there. I remember we played Virginia Union in the home of Ben Wallace. Do you understand how it felt to walk in there and see his jersey up on the wall, man?
Nostalgic.
It was awesome. And again, for me, by this time, basketball was just about the culture of it. That's why I shared it. You know, high school, yeah, man, we all had some fun. We all had our feats and our successes, but it was always about going into the driveway, going out with our friends, and being the 04 Pistons, being the Grant Hill, being Jerry Stackhouse in the driveway for me, man. You know, that's what it was about. And I wanted to just be able to get into it just so, you know, the people who are in here, people commenting, they get a little bit of feel who we are, man. But any last words?
No, I'm excited.
On the Jaden Ivey show.
Can we speed this month up? Let's get to the drafts.
Hey,
we got big things planned for the
draft.
Stay
tuned. We got a draft
big
show
things
coming up. Big things coming, bro. Can't wait. Hey, Rod, how you feeling?
I love when you do that. he likes it. Look at Rod.
He likes it. Hey, man, for the Woodward Pistons Podcast, I am Detroit KoolAid. This is Mr. Jeff Iafredi.
What it do?
Hey, and that is Mr. Rod Beard from the Detroit News. Man, a few words we see. Hey, till next time, man. Let us know what you guys think. Jaden Ivey at number 4.